For Fermin Aldeguer, the countdown to MotoGP 2026 did not begin with a roar of engines, but with the echo of an impact on a quiet training day in Valencia. One moment of speed, one split second of loss, one fracture that changed everything. The Gresini racing rider suffered a broken left femur after a heavy crash during a private training session. A brutal injury, a serious injury, an injury that doesn't care about titles, talent, or momentum. The road to MotoGP glory is never smooth. Sometimes it is paved with victories, sometimes with sacrifice, and sometimes with pain that arrives without warning. For Fermin Aldeguer, the countdown to MotoGP 2026 did not begin with a roar of engines, but with the echo of an impact on a quiet training day in Valencia. One moment of speed, one split second of loss, one fracture that changed everything. The Gresini racing rider suffered a broken left femur after a heavy crash during a private training session. A brutal injury, a serious injury, an injury that doesn't care about titles, talent, or momentum. Not just a fall, not just a bruise, a full stop in motion. Aldeguer, the Rookie of the Year in 2025, was supposed to be building rhythm, sharpening instincts, preparing his body and mind for a full MotoGP campaign. Instead, he now faces surgery, recovery, and a race against time that has nothing to do with lap times. Surgery is scheduled immediately, precision over speed, healing over heroics, because the femur is not just any bone, it is the backbone of balance, power, and control, the strongest bone in the human body. When it breaks, it demands respect. All about strength, all about stability, all about survival. Gresini Racing confirmed the procedure would take place in Barcelona with the clear objective of accelerating recovery while minimizing long-term risk. No shortcuts, no reckless timelines, just calculated steps toward a return. But the clock is unforgiving. The Sepang pre-season test looms on February 3rd. 3 days, endless data, a critical foundation for any MotoGP season, especially for a rider still adapting to prototype machinery at the highest level. Miss it and you don't just lose laps, you lose reference, you lose confidence, you lose ground. Every lap matters, every session teaches, every absence costs. There's also Buriram on the horizon, another test, another opportunity, another question mark. Will Aldeguer be ready, or will the season begin while he watches from the sidelines, learning MotoGP through screens instead of sensations? Inside the paddock, the mood is cautious, supportive, but realistic. Everyone knows this sport does not wait. Talent buys patience, but only so much. Yet Aldeguer is not just another rookie. He's a rider forged in pressure, a racer who built his reputation on aggression, balanced by intelligence. A young Spaniard who didn't just arrive, he announced himself. Rookie by name, fighter by nature, competitor by instinct. For Gresini Racing, the situation is delicate. The team continues with Alex Marquez as its anchor, but Aldeguer was meant to be the spark, the future, the project rider who grows, learns, and eventually leads. Now that future is wrapped in bandages and rehabilitation schedules. Still, this is MotoGP. Stories are never linear. Comebacks are currency. Pain is temporary, but character is permanent. Doctors remain optimistic. No nerve damage, no surgical complications expected. Immobilization, rehab, discipline. If recovery follows the ideal curve, Aldeguer could still make Sepang, or at least avoid losing too much ground before the opening round. Not about rushing, about returning right. Not about fear, about patience. Not about what breaks you, but what rebuilds you. In the end, this injury may define Aldeguer more than any podium. How he responds, how he endures, how he comes back when the lights go out and the grid waits for no one. MotoGP 2026 hasn't started yet, but for Fermin Aldeguer, the first battle has already begun. Not on the track, not on the stopwatch, but inside the fight to heal, return, and prove that setbacks don't end careers, they sharpen them. The pressure, however, does not stop at recovery timelines. Inside Aldeguer's mind, another race is unfolding, the fight to retain momentum in a paddock that forgets quickly. MotoGP rewards presence, it punishes absence, and every day away from the bike is a day rivals grow sharper, braver, faster. Form fades, rivals evolve, silence grows loud. Yet those closest to Aldeguer insist this pause may become a weapon rather than a weakness. Forced stillness brings clarity, watching data instead of chasing it, studying lines instead of forcing them. Sometimes the best acceleration comes after a standstill. From the Gresini garage, the message is consistent. No panic, no pressure, just belief. They know raw speed can be rebuilt, confidence can be reignited. What matters most is that Aldeguer returns whole, physically and mentally, ready to ride without hesitation. Trust the process, trust the body, trust the comeback. In the wider MotoGP ecosystem, rivals are watching closely, some with sympathy, others with calculation. A wounded rookie reshapes strategies, alters expectations, opens doors. Opportunities shift when one contender pauses. But history has taught this paddock a brutal lesson. Injured riders often come back angrier, sharper, more dangerous than before. Pain refines focus, absence fuels hunger, and when Aldeguer finally swings his leg back over a MotoGP machine, he won't be riding just to participate, he'll be riding to remind them. Not here to survive, here to compete, here to belong. Because MotoGP doesn't remember who fell, it remembers who came back and what they did next.